How to have how to create a trust fund, baby. Now I just woke up a couple of minutes ago. Still got the bags under my eyes, and I have a problem sleeping because there's a lot of things, a lot of information that goes through this giant head of mine. And I'm sitting here thinking like anytime we heard the word trust fund baby, it always carried it's just it was almost like someone was making fun of you or insulting someone that inherited wealth. And I never got that because I was like, it's actually smart. Mom and dad are actually smart. If you are a trust fund baby and your parents worked hard to lay up generational wealth for you in the next generation, then they're smart. How can you ever put someone down and laugh at someone or make fun of someone that is in a better position than you because their parents properly planned? I heard something yesterday that was very interesting. It said, everything you learn late, you teach your kids early. I wholeheartedly believe that. I've learned a lot of things late. I've learned a lot of things early as well. And I've learned to implement that. I've learned to sit down and have little conversations with my children. So first, let's jump straight into it. I got some notes. How to create a trust fund baby. First thing, you need a baby. You need children. So if you're planning for children, you can establish this trust without having to already have like they don't have to already exist, but you can have a trust fund and then add them as a beneficiary later. But I would advise that you have kids and then you go and look and you start doing your due diligence, searching for whatever trust fund that best suits you because there are many different trust funds. There's discretionary trust fund, there's irrevocable, so on and so forth. I myself, me and my wife, shout outs to attorney Brad here in Connecticut. We talked to him about a trust fund. I think it costs around like $1,600. And he did all the legal paperwork, and we paid like $1,600, and we got the trust fund established. Me and my wife used to think, and I'm not sure if it's just her, but we used to think that you had to be like super rich to have a trust fund. No, you don't. You just need to be smart. You need to know how to utilize it, properly fund it, asset protection. You also need to learn about taxes because you do file taxes with that trust, and it could depend on the trust that you have. I have an irrevocable trust, so Form 1041 is what you do annually every year. Do your research. Don't take my word for it, but do your research. And I'm always going to tell you this because I can't stand when people they look at a video and it's just like boom, they believe everything that person's saying without actually conducting their own research. So let's go over the steps again. First, you need to have a baby. Secondly, you need to plan. You need to do your own research and find out what trust best suits you. What do you want that trust to have? What do you want it to protect? Do you want it for tax benefits? Do you want it for, you know, to protect your business, your real estate assets, asset protection, tax liability? Then third, you need an estate attorney. You need someone who's going to draft the legal documents and establish that trust. They're going to go through spendthrift clause, which is like if the kids were to access the trust, like or yourself for spending from creditors, they're going to ask you about distributions, prerequisites that your kids have to meet in order for them to access that trust. So me and my wife, we sat down, we said, our children need to start a business. They need to actually become business owners. Ownership is everything. They need to actually get into entrepreneurial endeavors. If they get into real estate, whatever it is that they choose to get into, they need to establish a business. They don't have to go to college. A lot of people will like, oh, my kid has to go to college. Your kid might not want to go to college. They might not want to go to college. So it's very important that you don't hang that over their head. But I do advise you that they should be business owners. They should, run their own business, be their own boss eventually, especially if you have your own family business. They need to go to, maybe you want them to go to college because you want them to learn more about business. Maybe you taught them a good amount of about business, about the family business, but there's other things that they can learn. They can network with people. That's one thing about college too. College people, they deem it as a scam instead of learning how to leverage and instead of thinking about the network and thinking about the people, the great minds that are in college. You got so many billionaires that dropped out of college because they met someone that was thinking like them. They started a business, they became multimillionaires, billionaires, so on and so forth, right? So have a baby, plan the estate, hire an estate attorney. Fourth, you need to have a trust fund bank account. The trust fund can obtain an EIN. EIN is just basically employer identification number, identifies that trust, identifies your business. If you're a business owner, you already have an EIN. You know that it's free and you can get it directly from the IRS, irs.gov. You can get it free, right? So if you're going to do a bank account for the trust fund, because it's important to fund that trust, right? You're laying up generational wealth. You have to understand that when you do private banks are wealth firm managements. What they'll do is they'll ask for a minimum amount to be put in that bank account to actually start funding it. Now, if you're doing a bank that is not private, they're not going to ask you for a minimum deposit. You can put however much you want. So nine to fivers, if you're a nine to fiver and you work a nine to five job and you have a little bit of money, guess what? Get your trust established. Save all your coins, save all your dollars. Once you pay for your attorney, get your trust established, then you go get your bank account with that EIN number and you start putting in money every week, every month, however much it is, $50, $100, but you need to put something there. That money now belongs to the trust, not you. Separation is so important. This is where asset protection is, key because the trust separates you from you. Just like certain business structures. And I will get into that in another video, but you want to not tie yourself. Yes, you are tied to things, but legally, when they look at things, it separates you. If you get sued, the trust doesn't get sued, right? So EIN number, get your bank account. If you're gonna do, like I said, if you're gonna do a private bank, they might have a minimum deposit, it might be like $5,000 and so on and so forth. Wealth firm management, $100,000. You need to do your research. Find you a bank account, get it funded. Five, I think, yeah, this is the fifth step. Life insurance policy. God forbid something happens to you or your spouse and there's no money in there. Let's say you've been putting money in there every month, but it's only like a couple $1,000s, right? We're in America. Everything's high in price. I just went to the grocery store and I got a good amount of stuff and I said, wow, I paid almost $200, but I have a good amount of stuff. So maybe inflation has come down, but we're going to have period of times where things are going to be high. The cost of living might be high. It might, and you need to prepare for that. So we need to think smart. Like if you go get a life insurance policy, it's going to fund that trust, right? It's going to help your kid with entrepreneurial endeavors. It's going to help them if they decide to get into real estate investment, if they decide to become their own business owners, if they are managing mom and dad's business, then they'll have access to capital to continue to fund that business or start new business endeavors, right? Now, I can't sit here and say that I'm an expert with life insurance. I'm not an expert with anything, but I have an experience that I'm teaching you about because I've already done it. Now, when it comes to life insurance, you have term life, you have permanent. Do your research. If you have a permanent life insurance policy and you're paying it off every month because you're going to have to pay it off. After a while, you're going to retain cash value. You could access your life insurance policy without dying. And that's a whole nother video, but it's important to have it there just in case of an event. Life insurance policy. You get your bank account, you get a life insurance policy. You can put real estate investments in there. You can put businesses within that trust. These are ways that that trust is going to not only protect the business or investments, but it's also going to have money coming in, right? Now, if you are self-employed and you own your own business, you need to teach your kids how to start a business, properly structure one, uh, speak about taxes that you may be doing with that business, how to write off taxes. You need to teach them about personal finance, financial literacy, period. If you don't know, remember, whatever you learn late, you teach your kids early. Just because you might not know something now doesn't mean it's too late. You can still teach your kids. They are still teachable. They're your kids. And you have to teach them about this so when they access the trust they properly manage it. Because if they go and don't know how to run a business, don't know how to take care of the business that you and your wife or you and your husband work so hard for, it can go downhill. They're going to get into all types of trouble and it's just not good. So we want to teach our kids about how to run a business. My oldest has a bake company. She bakes, cookies and cake and all types of desserts. So I've been teaching her little by little, professionalism, correct, how to articulate herself, how to speak to her clients, how to structure a menu list, everything. And it's fun how to do logos, how to look for resources when you can't find them. Mom and dad are here, but I want you to always remind yourself that in the case of an event that we are not, how am I going to find the proper resources or utilize the proper resources that we have and find more so I can continue to scale and grow my business? Very, very, very important. So these are the things how to create a trust fund. So we're gonna go right back. You gotta have a baby. You have to plan for the estate, know which trust best suits you, talk to an estate attorney so they can draft all the legal documents. Then you need to fund the trust. That's number four. That's with life insurance policy. Get in a bank account with that EIN. The EIN is for the trust. The trust, the trust name is in the bank account. And then you need to think about all any investments you may have, real estate, any businesses, because that's going to continually be protected and it's also going to help fund the trust. Then, last, number six, you're going to talk to your kids and educate your kids about business, about how to properly maintain things and learn together. It's so fun to learn together. Go to seminars, go speak with an attorney, go talk to someone who's well off, who knows more than you, who's in a better position, who's, you know, take business classes together. There's a reason why I went back to college is because I wanted to learn more. I actually got a better deal. Like when they start offering you scholarships and incentives and stuff like that, hey, that's when you know you can utilize and take advantage of college for those requirements. Because when you speak with, and I need to say this, your attorney is going to talk with you about the requirements for your child. Don't make it crazy to the point where they can't access the trust, but make it to the point where they are goal oriented, that they're motivated, and it's almost like that journey is enjoyable because a lot of people put so many strict prerequisites like your kid don't want to he or she doesn't want to be a doctor, they're not interested in that, maybe they just want to own $1 million scooter company. So that's another thing too. Don't put strict requirements, but there are 6 steps. This is how to create a trust fund, baby. We need to redefine the terms because it is looked at and has been looked at for so many years. For your trust fund, baby, you just always had a silver spoon in your mouth. So what? Guess what? That next generation gonna have a gold one in their mouth. We could eat with gold utensils. No more silver spoon. We doing gold spoons now. You know, we doing diamond forks. So that's important. Get a trust fund, set your kids up, put those seeds down, teach them how to properly water, how to maintain the garden. God bless y'all. Billionaire Chase. I'm having many more educational videos on this channel. It started off as a reaction channel, and the name Billionaire Chase. I've always had nicknames that had been tied to. I've had Chase Bank, Chase Manhattan. I've always had, these nicknames growing up. People calling me this around, where I grew up at. And I said, you know what? Doesn't make sense for me to sit here and do reaction videos when I should be teaching about educational wealth. I should be teaching about the things and my mistakes and the things that I'm doing now to lay up generational wealth for the next. So, and it's way more interesting. It's way more interesting. I'm going to make these videos nice and short, going to give you valuable information, and I want you to go out there, do your own research, and I want you to go and apply the things that you feel are best for you and that you felt, if you felt like I gave you good information, put it down in the comments. And if it's changing your life and you already watched this video and you started putting things in fruition, you started getting things going, let me know. I love to see people succeed. There's too much information and not enough people applying it. All right. God bless you guys.